What is up, YouTube? This is Hypergon, Chop the Cat, back again for another video. This time, we're actually going to be talking about two new TCG exclusive decks that are coming out in the newest set, Clash of Rebellions, later on this week. Now, for those of you guys who may not have heard, there are in fact two new decks that are exclusive for the TCG coming out. And we all know how well that worked out last time with Burning Abyss, so this can only end well, I think you all know. Now, as I'm sure you guys may have noted from the title of the video down below, or above if it was updated again later and I don't know where it is, these new decks are actually based on something that I don't believe Konami has ever based a deck on before. They are based on popular movie franchises. Seems a little shortcutish, but the way they did the decks I honestly can't argue. The first deck we're going to talk about are the Kaiju, which aren't as known by everybody since the other one was announced much sooner. The other one being the Kozmo. Now, the Kaiju are based on the Godzilla franchise. As such, they're based around giant monsters, but we'll get more into that in just a second. The Kozmo, on the other hand, which were announced first, are based on the Star Wars franchise. Now, personally, between the two of them, I personally like the Kaiju a lot more, but that's more because the way the deck works for them actually kind of makes more sense with how you would expect a Godzilla movie to play out. But again, I'll touch up on that in a little bit. The Kozmo, on the other hand, while they don't really make a whole lot of sense in terms of Star Wars, other than just like the way the cards look, the way they function has nothing to do with it, they're just so much better. I hate to say it, I love the Kaiju to death, but my god, the Kozmo are just so good. I honestly see them like shaping the tier list for the next format, next couple of formats maybe. They're just that good. But they will actually be the second one I talk about, since I personally am very biased on these things. We're going to talk about my favorite first, the Kaijus. Now, as I said, the Kaiju are based around the Godzilla franchise, and as such, there are a lot of big monsters in it. In fact, the primary monster... There's only two monsters in it so far. The first of... I'm sorry. The first of which is, the Godzilla monster himself. I believe he is called Dogaron or something like that. Don't quote me on that just yet. I'm actually looking this up right now. Yeah, Dogaron, the Mad Flame Kaiju. He has 3,000 attack, 1,200 defense. And the other one is called Kumongus, the Sticky String Kaiju, and is based off of the Kumonga, or a large spider creature from, again, Godzilla. He has 2,400 attack and 2,500 defense. And then they have their field spell, Kyoto Water Tower, which is field spell. Now, the two Kaiju monsters each have two of the same effects. They both have the effect of you can special summon this card to your opponent's side of the field in face-up attack position by triggering one monster they control. So, Lava Golem. Also, if your opponent controls a face-up Kaiju monster, you can special summon this card to your side of the field. So, with that, the intent of it is you would probably summon out one of the weaker ones to your opponent's side of the field, and then, since your opponent would then control a face-up Kaiju, you could special summon your own Kaiju monster from your own hand, and you'd have a giant monster fight. That's the way it was theorized to work, I believe. However, it did not end up working out that way, since we kind of found a way to fix that problem. The main problem being that the Kaiju monsters get their other effect, the one that's more individual to them, from Kaiju counters built up by Kyoto Waterfront, their field spell. And, Jesus, that field spell can build up counters like you would not believe. Okay, so the way Kyoto Waterfront works is that it gets one Kaiju counter every time a card or cards is sent from the field to the graveyard. Anytime. It doesn't matter. It could be an upstart goblin. Just play it, draw your card, it's sent to the graveyard, you get a Kaiju counter. That's how good it is. It just builds counters ridiculously. You can only have a maximum of 5, but trust me, even if you use them all up in a single turn, you'll have them back by the next turn. Believe me, it's not hard. So It does that if you control, if that Kyoto Waterfront has 3 or more kaiju counters on it, then you can search your deck for a kaiju monster, and if this card would be destroyed while it has a kaiju counter on it, you can take off 1 kaiju counter instead of it being destroyed. And again, since it builds up so much advantage, it's basically impossible to destroy. I mean, think about it. If you try and MST this thing, it'll just take off a kaiju counter, and then because your MST goes to the graveyard, it gains a kaiju counter back. This card is essentially unkillable. But the main thing it does is it just, other than searching out your kaijus, it gives the kaijus their power. Now, Dogeron has the ability to send 3 kaiju counters to the graveyard in order, or just remove 3 kaiju counters from anywhere on the field, I'm sorry, to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. However, he cannot attack the turn you activate this effect. Then Humongous has the ability of, you can remove 2 kaiju counters from anywhere on the field. Yeah, it works either way, by the way, guys. So if you leave that monster on your opponent's side of the field, they could use your kaiju counters against you. Just heads up on that. But Humongous has the ability, you can remove 2 kaiju counters from anywhere on the field to, whenever your opponent summons a monster, to negate their effect for the turn and make it so they cannot attack. This is a big deal against a lot of monsters. And the worst part is, it's not a once per turn effect. And this is something I'll show off a little bit later on in the week, but if you continuously try and get a monster out, and you find a way to try and loop it so you think you can eventually get around Humongous, you can't eventually get around Humongous. As long as you use at least 2 cards in your combo to try and bring back that monster, Humongous can keep on screwing you over and saying no over and over again. There's no way around Humongous' effect. He's just going to keep doing it. But that's pretty much how they work. They do also have the unfortunate restriction of being only able to control 1 kaiju monster at a time. So you cannot have a Dogeron and a Humongous on your side of the field. You have to pick one, which does make it a little bit tricky. That kind of threw me off when I was first practicing out with them, but ultimately I found they're kind of fun. To me, they are definitely the more fun deck, but I also like big monsters, so that's my inner 9-year-old talking. But for me, what I really like about this deck, what I feel like gives it an edge, is its ability to summon monsters to your opponent's side of the field. It's an amazing way to get rid of cards. For example, say you're facing off against a Yang Zing deck. Yang Zings are notoriously difficult for being able to get rid of, because if you do anything to destroy them at all, they'll just crap out another 20 of them. So it's incredibly difficult to get past them. The Kaiju do not have this issue. The Kaiju will look at you, tribute your own monster, and problem solved. Even if you synchro summon their big boss monster with all of the protection in the world, it doesn't have protection against being tributed. So I can still work around that completely, which I find hilarious. Especially since it doesn't target the monster, it just tributes them. Like you would tribute a monster to summon on your side of the field. And I know what you guys are thinking now. Okay, well, that's great, but you've just given your opponent a really big monster, and if you have a lot of kaiju counters, they can still screw you over. Not necessarily. The main thing that people have found works with the kaijus is 2 cards. Owner's Seal and Remove Brainwashing. The first is a regular spell card that returns all monsters on the field to their correct owners. So even if you did special summon that monster to your opponent's side of the field, it's still your card. It still came from your deck. So Remove Brainwashing will bring them back to your field. So I've just gotten rid of one of their monsters, and you have a big beefy on your field for no cost to you whatsoever other than a single spell card. And then Remove Brainwashing is a continuous trap card that does the same thing. So in that case, whenever you summon it to your opponent's side of the field, it will immediately come back to you. It takes a little longer to set up because you gotta wait the turn after you set it, but it just means you can essentially screw them sideways as much as you want. That's pretty much it on the kaijus. Most people have found that the most effective engine for this deck is actually the ninjas, since Dogeron is a level 8 dinosaur and can be summoned with Super Trance. Especially easy since a lot of people tend to run monsters with at least level 4 primarily in the deck. And Humongous is a level 7 insect which can be gotten with regular transformation, or ninjutsu order transformation rather, just extremely easily. And since Hanzo, the main card to get those traps, is a level 4 warrior, he can be searched out with Rhoda. It is the most effective means of bringing them out. It also gets past the whole summoning them to your opponent's side of the field thing. I understand why. I personally didn't make it that way because I feel like that's a bit shortcutish. I kind of wanted to make it the most authentic Godzilla-like deck that I could. So, but again, I'll show you guys that a little bit later on in the week. Next, we move on to the Cosmos, and oh boy, these things, I tell you, I honestly have not seen a deck this insanely good in such a long time. Now, like I said, the Cosmo in this case, spelled with a K and a Z as opposed to a C and an S, are a series of light attribute, psychic, and machine type monsters. I'll just let that sink in for a second. But what really makes these guys stand out so much is their ability to... They're very banish heavy, kind of like Ritual Beast Tamers. Only difference is they can... They almost feel more effective at it, if you will. So the way that they work is the two psychic monsters, Cosmo Farm Girl and Cosmo Good Fairy, both have the ability of being able to banish themselves in order to special summon a Cosmo monster of a higher level than their own. Farm Girl's level 3 and Good Fairy is level 4. And you can do this at any point during your turn, or during either player's turn, I believe. And then the other two, the machines, represent ships from the Star Wars franchise. And those would be Cosmo Sliprider and Cosmo Forerunner. They also have their own field spell known as Cosmo Town. Now, let's get back to the first monsters, the psychic ones. The first one I mentioned is Cosmo Farm Girl, aka Luke Skywalker. As it is shown as a young female, they are women, changed around to the male roles they're supposed to represent, living on a desert-like island and under the impression of Farm Girl, presumably is some kind of a planter. Sound familiar? Yes, that was the origin story of Luke before he went off with Obi-Wan Kenobi to search for his destiny or whatever, the Force, I don't know. Discretion there, I have seen Star Wars, so that was just me being shortcutish about it. Farm Girl's effect is, like I said, you can banish it to special summon a higher level Cosmo monster from your hand. But also, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can pay 500 life points to search any Cosmo card from your deck to your hand. That's amazing. So, let me spell out how this can work. And this is an aspect a lot of people don't realize is even possible. So, you're using Cosmo Farm Girl. You somehow managed to inflict damage with her 1500 attack points. Presumably an Honest it may be involved, or some other kind of equip spell, I don't know. Or maybe you just got really lucky, who knows. So you do the damage, you use your search, get, let's say, Cosmo Forerunner, the boss monster of the deck. Then, during the same battle phase, banish Farm Girl, summon Forerunner, attack. That's what these guys can do. They can change so many... They can special summon during the battle phase. That's an exceptionally broken ability. Not a lot of decks can even do that without the help of a spell or track card. These guys just do it by themselves. They only have the one support card, and that's Cosmo Town. We haven't even gotten to that yet. But yeah, for that reason, Farm Girl is easily one of the most broken cards in the deck, and I can easily see probably being the most expensive one out of the deck, since it's kind of like the center cog piece, honestly. Next up, we have Cosmo Good Fairy, or as I like to call her, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as she takes on the form of a fairy-like creature in the Death Star, or a Death Star-like setup, holding a green energy sword. I realize Obi-Wan's is blue, but semantics. So, yeah, and Good Fairy is a bit stronger at 1800. It's a bit more respectable for a level 4 monster. And Good Fairy's effect is, again, same with being able to banish at any point for a bigger Cosmo monster. But this time, it can pay 500 life points in order to take one of your opponent's monsters and flip it to face-down defense position. So, not quite as useful as Farm Girl, but for getting over those big monsters like, we'll just say Summon Skull, or I guess Red Eyes Lightning Archfiend, since that's actually going to be coming out in the same set, it's able to take care of cards like that, and will be able, and can still attack and then do the thing where it swaps out for a bigger one, and so on and so forth. I'm personally not as big of a fan of Good Fairy just because it doesn't have that searching power, but again, it's still pretty useful. 1800 is hard to argue with. Those two are actually psychic monsters, so the fact that they pay life points to activate their effects is kind of symbolic of the initial take on psychic monsters, which I've always been a bigger fan of because to me it makes more sense as opposed to the banishing aspect. I'm not saying I don't get the banish aspect as why it's good, but for me, my visualization on psychics is that it always has to take some kind of a toll to use that level of power. So for these guys being psychic monsters and having to pay life points for their effects, I can kind of respect that. It is also kind of, I'm guessing, a reference to the Star Wars franchise that they are psychic monsters because it's supposed to be like they're using the Force or something like that. So they're psychics and able to move things with their mind and such. That's my take on it. I could be entirely wrong. Maybe that's just a coincidence they didn't feel like making them warriors. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure that was the reason for it. The other two are representative of famous ships from the Star Wars franchise. The first one, which is Slip Rider, is based off of an X-Wing. It is a level 5 machine monster. So, and when it is normal or special summoned, you can target one spell or trap card on the field and destroy it. So this thing is an MST with legs. Or wings, I guess. And the machines have a slightly different effect than the psychics do. The machine Kozmo monsters have the ability to, when they are destroyed and sent to the graveyard, for any reason whatsoever, I might add, you have the ability to special summon a lower level Kozmo monster from your deck. That's way bigger than from the hand with the psychics. But at least with Farm Girl, you can search it out, so it's basically the same thing. But, yeah, and since it is a level 5 machine monster, if you throw in a few things like, I don't know, Cyber Dragons, you can easily actually make Cyber Dragon Nova and go into Cyber Dragon Infinity, in case this deck didn't have enough broken bullshit as it is. Now, the big one, the boss monster, is known as Kozmo Forerunner, and unless I'm mistaken, this appears to be the Millennium Falcon of cards, if I've ever seen it. Now, this one is by far one of the most important pieces of the deck, since it is a 2800 beater, as well as a level 7 light monster, so I'll get to a few stupid things you can do with that in just a sec. But the main thing with this is that during each of your standby phases, you gain 1,000 life points back, which is tremendously helpful with all the life point costs you're going to be having. Especially with things like Farm Girl and Cosmotown, which I'll get to in a little bit. Now, Forerunner, again, still has the same ability of, if this card would be destroyed, you can banish it in order to special summon a lower level Kozmo monster. And since it is the strongest, that means any Kozmo monster other than Forerunner himself. Now, the reason that this is so amazingly good is, let's explain this with one of the most powerful and well-known machine support cards, limiter removal. Normally, that's something that you would only activate if you know it's going to lead to a win, so it's pretty much your OTK card. Cosmos can use this card for shits and giggles. Here's my point. Let's say you have a Kozmo Forerunner out on the field, and you decide to limiter removal so you can bring it up to a whopping 5,600, and you punch. Well, maybe that wasn't enough to finish it. Well, shit happens. But unfortunately, because of limited removal, you're going to lose your Forerunner during the end phase. When the end phase kicks off and Forerunner is destroyed, Forerunner's effect then kicks in, letting you special summon any other Kozmo monster from your deck who's weaker, who has a lower level than Forerunner. Well, let's say you decide to get Slip Rider. Slip Rider's effect then kicks in when it's summoned and lets you destroy a spell or trap card on the field should your opponent happen to have one. Or you can destroy your own Cosmotown, since it has the effect of whenever it's destroyed, you get to search out a Kozmo card from your deck. Not ideal, and it is optional too, but that's just kind of the point I'm making here. These guys are so versatile in being able to grab just anything they need, it's ridiculous. And again, that's without Cosmotown. Let's go ahead and get into that, shall we? As I said, it is their field spell, so you're just going to have that out. It doesn't build counters like Kyoto Waterfront did for the Kaijus. But with Cosmotown, what it does is that you can pay increments of 100 life points per level of a monster that's banished, and return that banished monster to your hand. That's insane. It's reusing cards from your banished zone, and such incremental costs. I mean, the most you'll ever pay to activate that effect is 700 if you need to get Forerunner back. That's less than cowboy damage. Who cares? I mean, in this format, or not really this format, but like ever since it started where people realized life points don't really matter until you hit that magic 800, people have just stopped caring about that. And with such a small amount, that's not even a tenth of your life points. That's less than 10% of your total life points you'd be paying for a 2800 monster that you can easily summon. And it also has the effect of being able to shuffle in Cosmo monsters from your hand into your deck, and then you draw the same number of cards. And then, like I mentioned earlier with my limited removal example, if it's destroyed, you search out a Cosmo card. Now, here's a funny thing that I realized you can do in combination with Cosmo Town and Forerunner. I'm not sure if you guys may have heard of this. It's this funny little card that got limited and is now back to 3 a while ago. It's called Sacred Sword of 7 Stars. Now, I'm sure everyone knows what it is, but the way that it works is you banish a level 7 monster either in your hand or on the field to draw 2 cards. Normally that means that monster's gone forever. However, if you have a Kozmo Town, that's not the case. It actually lets you draw the 2 cards, and then for 700 life points, you can just get that Forerunner back into your hand. That's actually better than like an Upstart Goblin if you think about it, because Upstart gives you 1 for a difference of 1,000. This combination, while it does require an extra card, gives you 2 cards for 700 life point difference. That's pretty good. I personally don't use that, but I just kind of realized it'd be kind of funny, and I'm sure people will start to use it eventually. But yeah, this deck just has so many good things going for it. It's a light attribute deck, it's got machines, it's got psychics, so many things with a lot of support to it. Not so much the psychics, but they still got some good support to them. You can E-teleport Farm Girl if you need to, and then just banish her again and get out a big one. There's so many things you can do with this deck, it's ridiculous. That's honestly why I feel like this deck is just so good. It's so versatile in all the things you can do. I've faced off against a couple of Cosmo decks on DevPro, and they've all been really good. I feel like this will be one of the better decks. Potentially even up there with like Shaddoll's or Tellarknights, or hell, maybe even Necros. Necros have gotten bitch slapped a lot recently. Maybe they've been brought down to Cosmo level, or Cosmo will be able to elevate to their level. Who knows? They're just a really good deck, so I can easily see this one being the more competitive deck, while, like I said a lot earlier, the Kaijus are more, for me, the fun deck. But that's all I really got for you guys today, just filling you in on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cinema experience outside of their own movies. But yeah, that's really it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are these good decks? Which one do you like best? Do you like the Kaijus like me, or are you more preferable to the Cosmos? Do you prefer them because of what their movie franchises are, or do you just like the cards? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, let me know if there are any other things you would like to see me do. I do take all of them into consideration. If you would like to face off against me, don't forget I have my Throwdown Thursday segment where I do face off against subscribers, as well as try and bring back old decks, highlight decks that fans want me to see, and so many other things. So if you want to do that, comment down below or like my page on Facebook in order to contact me. A lot easier way to get through to me. Of course, don't forget to also like and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, peace.